I never thought a broken washing machine would be the first thing to completely unravel me in the city, but there I was, crouched in a laundromat on 6th and Fremont, trying not to have a full-blown breakdown over a tangled mess of damp clothes. I had moved here 3 weeks ago, new job, new apartment, new everything, and so far, the only thing I'd managed to do with confidence was get lost on the subway and kill a perfectly good basil plant on my windowsill. The city was loud, fast, and overwhelming in a way that made me feel like I was constantly one step behind. And on that humid Tuesday evening, standing in front of a dented row of humming machines, I felt about as small and out of place as the single sock stuck to the bottom of my laundry basket. I had walked 2 blocks with that basket digging into my hip, still in my work clothes and sweating through my collar, thinking I could just get in, get out, and maybe pick up some Thai food on the way back. I wasn't expecting the place to be so full or so full of life. A kid was trying to climb inside a dryer while his mom scrolled through her phone. An old man was asleep in a plastic chair with a magazine on his chest, and somewhere in the corner a woman was singing softly to herself as she folded bed sheets like origami. And then there was him. I noticed him because he was laughing, not loudly, but in this quiet, effortless way that made everything else fade for a second. He was leaning against one of the folding tables, headphones around his neck, sleeves rolled up, sorting through a basket of laundry like he was doing something far more interesting than what the rest of us were there for. He had messy black hair, a slim build, a faded green t-shirt, and forearms that flexed every time he reached for another shirt. And when he looked up and caught me staring, he smiled like he knew exactly what I was thinking. I looked away immediately, heat rushing to my face, and turned toward the change machine like it had just become the most important thing in the universe. But as I fumbled with a $5 bill, I felt a presence beside me, close, but not too close. "These machines hate new people," he said, nodding toward the row of washers. His voice was warm, steady, and completely disarming. "You have to feed them slow or they spit it back out." "Like New York, really?" I looked at him, surprised at his ease, and managed a smile. "So I've noticed." He held out a handful of quarters like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Here, let me help." "First time?" "First month," I said, accepting the coins and trying to keep my hand from shaking. "And it shows, doesn't it?" He grinned, and in that grin was something open and kind. "Only to people who've been there too." We talked more as we loaded our machines, him asking about my move, my job, whether I'd found a decent sandwich in the city yet. His name was Leo, and he lived a few blocks away, freelance graphic designer, city native, and apparently a firm believer in laundry as therapy. The conversation was easy, natural, the kind of flow you don't expect with someone you've known for less than an hour. And when we finished, when my clothes were still tumbling dry and he was folding a stack of crisp shirts, he looked at me and said, "You fold like someone who's still learning how to stand still." It was a strange thing to say, but it felt exactly right. And somehow it made me want to stay longer. We ended up folding our laundry side by side like we'd done it 100 times before, even though we were strangers only an hour earlier. Leo worked quickly, his hands fluid and practiced, making neat stacks while I fumbled through tangled sleeves and twisted pant legs, trying not to keep glancing at him like a nervous kid. But every time he smiled or looked up with that easy confidence, something stirred inside me, something that made the noise of the city, the harshness of the fluorescent lights, and the weight of my apartment's silence feel far away. "So what brought you here, really?" he asked, not in a nosy way, but like he was genuinely curious. I hesitated, folding a towel that refused to square properly, then shrugged. "Needed change. Thought the city might shake me awake." He raised an eyebrow, nodding slowly. "And has it?" "More like punched me in the face and asked for rent money," I said, laughing. It surprised even me how easily it came out, how much lighter I felt after just saying it out loud. He chuckled too, and I noticed the way his eyes narrowed when he laughed, crinkling just enough to make him look boyish, even though there was something unmistakably grown about him. "That's fair. It does that. But it also gives back if you stick around long enough to notice." He reached into his basket again, and I realized we were both slowing down, our movements becoming more deliberate, the space between our bodies getting a little smaller, though neither of us commented on it. There was something soft in the air, a kind of quiet held in the folds of our clothes, and the way his elbow bumped mine and lingered for just a moment too long before he pulled away. He reached for one of my t-shirts that had fallen off the table and started folding it without asking, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I let him. "You ever get the feeling," he said, his voice lower now, "that something unexpected is exactly what you needed?" I looked at him then, really looked, and the question hung in the air between us like something more than rhetorical. "I do now," I said. His fingers paused on the fabric. He glanced up, our eyes meeting, and I could feel the shift, the weight of everything that wasn't being said. He smiled again, smaller this time, but softer, as if something inside him recognized the same ache I'd been carrying since I got here. The dryers beeped. Someone passed behind us, grabbing a basket, muttering about lint and socks, breaking the moment. Leo stepped back slightly, collected the last of his folded shirts, and said, "I usually come here Saturday mornings, but I'm not too attached to that schedule." I nodded slowly, heart racing, clothes forgotten. "Then maybe I'll see you sooner than that." He leaned in a little, and I felt his fingers graze mine as he handed me the t-shirt he'd folded. It was small, brief, barely a touch, but it sparked something in me, something real. Then he was gone, basket under his arm, walking out the glass doors and disappearing into the golden light of early evening. I stood there for a long time, watching the empty space he left behind, holding a neatly folded t-shirt like it meant something. And maybe it did. I went back 2 nights later, not because I had laundry to do, though I tossed in a half-full basket for the sake of pride, but because I couldn't get Leo out of my head. I kept seeing him in small flashes. The curve of his smile, the brush of his fingers against mine, the weight of the question he had asked without asking. I knew it was fast. I knew it made no sense. But somehow, it felt like he had seen through the noise and straight into the quiet parts of me I usually kept hidden. He was already there when I arrived. Same spot, same folding table, different shirt. He looked up when I walked in, and his whole face shifted, brightened like he'd been hoping I might show. I tried to act casual, but my heart was hammering in my chest. He waved me over with a nod, and I walked straight to him, all the air in the laundromat suddenly feeling warmer than it should have. "You weren't supposed to need clean clothes this soon," he teased lightly, his eyes full of something softer than amusement. "Turns out I'm really messy," I said. "Also, maybe I was hoping you'd still be here." He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with this unreadable expression, like he was weighing something important. Then he said, "Want to grab a drink after this?" I nodded before he even finished the question. We went to a small bar just a few blocks away. Dim lighting, old wood floors, quiet enough that we didn't have to shout. We sat at the back, side by side in a booth, sipping beer and talking about nothing. Childhood pets, weird neighbors, the time I got locked out of my apartment on day 3 in the city. The laughter came easily, but so did the quiet. And when our knees touched under the table and neither of us moved, I felt something settle in my chest that I hadn't felt since arriving here. Peace. After the second drink, he reached for my hand. Not dramatic, not desperate, just gentle. I let him. By the time we got back to my place, the city was hushed under a light rain, streets glowing in amber and red from distant traffic lights. Inside, I kicked off my shoes and turned toward him, unsure what to do with the weight of the silence between us now. He stepped close, slow and sure, and rested his hands lightly at my waist. "Can I kiss you?" I nodded once, shaky but certain. When our lips met, it was soft, careful, more like a question than an answer. But when I leaned into him, pressed my palms flat against his chest and felt the steady thrum of his heartbeat under my fingertips, the kiss deepened into something hungry and patient all at once. His hands slid up my back, under my shirt, his touch feather-light, like he was trying to memorize the shape of me. And when I pulled him closer, I didn't feel nervous. I felt wanted. We moved toward the bedroom slowly, pausing for more kisses, for breaths, for quiet words that didn't need explaining. Clothes fell away one piece at a time, not rushed, just necessary. His mouth explored every inch of me like he'd known me longer than just a few days. And when we finally came together, it was gentle, unhurried, full of heat and reverence and something that felt achingly close to love, even if we hadn't said the word yet. After, we lay tangled in each other, skin still warm, breathing shallow, hearts loud. He kissed my shoulder, then my temple, and whispered, "You don't feel like someone new." You feel like someone I was meant to find." I didn't answer right away. I just turned toward him, cupped his face in both hands, and kissed him like I wanted to stay right there with him forever. I woke up to the sound of soft rain against the windows and the unfamiliar feeling of someone else breathing beside me. For a moment, I didn't move, just listened to the quiet rhythm of Leo's breath, steady and slow, felt the light pressure of his arm draped across my ribs, and stared at the ceiling like it might offer some kind of answer I didn't yet have the words to ask. His skin was warm against mine, our legs tangled beneath the sheets, our clothes scattered somewhere between the living room and the hallway. Everything felt slower now, like time had stretched out just to hold us inside it for a little longer. I turned my head slightly and looked at him, still asleep, mouth slightly open, dark hair tousled in every direction, and felt something pull at my chest so sharply it startled me. I hadn't expected it to feel like this. Not just the sex, though that had been tender and incredible and more real than anything I'd allowed myself in months, but the after. The way his body molded to mine like he belonged there. The way I didn't feel the need to escape or explain. When he stirred, his hand slid slowly across my stomach and tightened slightly around my waist. He murmured something into my shoulder, half words, half breath, and then kissed the skin just beneath my neck, a gesture so gentle it made my throat tighten. "Still here?" he whispered, barely audible. "Yeah," I said. "Still here?" He smiled against my skin, then rolled onto his back and stretched, letting out a small, satisfied groan that made me smile despite the anxiety buzzing quietly in the background of my mind. We didn't say much after that. We just lay there in the soft light, trading slow kisses and tangled fingers, our bodies pressed together in the kind of quiet intimacy that asks for nothing more than presence. But eventually life crept back in. I made coffee while he sat on the edge of the bed, pulling his shirt back on, his hair still messy, his eyes following me like he wasn't ready to leave yet. I handed him a mug, and he held it with both hands, sipping slowly, watching the rain streak down the window like a moving painting. "I don't do this," I said finally, the words catching slightly in my throat. "I don't bring people home. I don't open up like this." He looked over, his expression calm, unreadable. "Neither do I." I sat down beside him, close enough that our knees touched. "But I don't regret it," I added. He turned his head toward me, reached out to rest his hand lightly on mine. "Me neither. But I don't want to be just one night for you. You're not." The words came out quieter than I expected, but I meant them. I meant them more than anything I'd said since moving to the city. He nodded like that was enough for now and stood up slowly, stretching again. I should go shower and pretend to fold laundry like a responsible adult. I laughed, relieved at the levity, then followed him to the door. He paused there for a second, turned back, and kissed me slow, like a promise. "I'll see you," he said, voice low and sure. And I believed him. For the first time since moving here, since uprooting everything, since feeling like a stranger in my own life, I finally believed someone when they said they'd come back. The next few weeks moved quietly, not fast, but not slow either, like we both knew what this was becoming, but neither of us was in a hurry to name it out loud. We texted almost every day, sometimes about nothing, laundry jokes, memes, complaints about bad coffee, but other times it was longer thoughts, check-ins, little pieces of life we were starting to offer each other. It felt good. It felt new. But it also felt like walking a balance beam with my hands behind my back. We met again at the laundromat the next Saturday, both of us pretending we just happened to be doing laundry at the same time. We didn't kiss, not in public, but we stood close. We folded clothes slower than necessary. We smiled in ways we hadn't before. He invited me back to his place that night, not with a look or a whisper, but with a simple, "Want to keep talking?" and I followed without hesitation. His apartment was small, sunlit, lived in, with posters of old indie films and a tiny balcony barely wide enough for 2 chairs. It didn't feel staged. It felt like him. We ordered Thai food and talked until the containers were empty and cold, sitting cross-legged on his couch, our legs touching, our hands brushing over the same spoon of rice like we couldn't help ourselves anymore. But it wasn't the kissing that caught me off guard. It wasn't even the way he pulled me into his lap on the couch, his hands warm on my back, his lips exploring mine like he was tasting something he'd been missing his whole life. It was after. When we were lying in bed, the soft yellow glow of the lamp painting golden lines across the sheets, he looked at me like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure how. "What is this to you?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the hum of the city outside his window. "It's the first thing that feels like it matters since I moved here," I said. "But it's also terrifying." He nodded slowly. "It is. Because you could walk away. You could too. I won't. The quiet between us stretched, not cold, not tense, just real. We had both been people before this. We had both built walls out of survival. And now we were standing in the middle of something soft, something vulnerable, something that didn't have instructions. I'm not perfect at this, I said. I still freeze sometimes. I still hear voices in my head that say this won't last. I know, he said. Me too. And then he reached for my hand and pulled it to his chest, right over his heartbeat. That's why I want it. Because it scares me. Because it's real. I didn't answer with words. I just leaned over and kissed him, slow, deliberate, anchoring us to the moment with nothing but breath and skin and closeness. And I thought maybe this is how it happens. Not with fireworks. Not with certainty. But with someone folding your shirt, seeing the mess, and staying anyway. It's been 5 months since that night in his apartment, the one with cold Thai food and quiet honesty, and somehow, without making any declarations or drawing hard lines, we've built something that feels like home. We still go to the laundromat sometimes, even though I finally bought a new washer last month. He teased me for it, called me a traitor, then laughed when I told him I missed folding next to him in that too bright, too loud little corner of the city where this all started. Now, he just brings his laundry over and dumps it into my basket like it's always been part of the plan. We fold side by side in my living room now, music playing, coffee brewing, a stack of wrinkled t-shirts between us like old friends we keep visiting. He always folds his socks perfectly, tight little bundles that would make my mother proud. I still roll mine half-heartedly and let them tumble into the drawer however they land. He doesn't try to change it. He just laughs, shakes his head, and kisses the back of my neck in passing like it's the most natural thing in the world. There are signs of him all over now. His toothbrush sits in the ceramic cup next to mine, his charger is plugged into the outlet by the bed, and there's a single key on my hook labeled with a little piece of masking tape that says L. He keeps oat milk in the fridge and steals my hoodies when the nights get cool, and I let him without ever asking for them back. I like the way they look on him, like they belong. Some nights, he reads on the couch while I work. Other nights, I cook while he dances barefoot in the kitchen to songs from his teenage years. We don't go out much. The city's still loud, and we've learned that some of the best moments come in the stillness, bare feet on warm floors, fingers grazing while brushing teeth, the quiet sigh he makes right before falling asleep with his head resting on my chest. One Saturday afternoon, we're folding towels in the sunlit living room, and he looks at me with that soft, thoughtful half-smile that only comes out when his guard is completely down. You're different now, he says, folding a pillowcase with practiced ease. I glance up from the towel in my lap, heart fluttering the way it still does sometimes when he surprises me with that kind of truth. Different how? He shrugs, not looking away. You don't fold like someone trying to hold everything together anymore. I laugh, caught off guard, but something about what he said settles deep in my chest like a weight shifting. I reach across the pile of laundry and take his hand. That's because I'm not doing it alone anymore. He leans in and kisses me, nothing showy, nothing dramatic. Just a slow press of lips to lips, full of all the quiet things we've never had to say out loud. Later, we curl up on the couch, legs tangled, clean laundry forgotten. His head rests on my shoulder, his fingers tracing idle lines along my forearm, and I realize we haven't turned the TV on. We don't need it. The room is filled with the kind of peace that comes only when you've stopped searching. I think back to who I was when I first moved here, the version of me that stumbled into that laundromat with a broken machine and a heavier heart. I thought I needed to become stronger. I thought being alone was the only way to prove I could survive. But all I really needed was someone to see the mess and not flinch. Someone who folded more than my shirts. Someone who unfolded me. Gently, patiently, fully. I don't know where this goes next. We haven't made plans beyond the next weekend. But when he shifts beside me, kisses my jaw, and whispers that he's never felt more at home, I don't need a 5-year plan. I just need this. His touch, his quiet, his presence beside me, always folding, always unfolding.